Hey everybody, it's Holly and Heather, and welcome to Everything Elvis.
Oh, Lord.
It's Monday night. You didn't think you'd see us, did you? No, it's Monday night.
You knew we would because we said so.
We have had an exciting night. It was stop number, 4 for Raleigh? 3? No, New York.
Oh, 4, yeah.
Stop 4 on the Riley Keough book tour. Conversations with Riley Keough and Holly Williams was here tonight at Belmont University in Nashville, and Heather and I got to attend. We're so excited to talk to you guys about it. It was very, very interesting. We can't wait to kind of discuss the similarities and the differences between the two nights. As you know, we were on a couple of nights ago. Saturday night was the Memphis stop. We attended that. We did a Facebook Live with you all, and whoa, it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Lots of back and forth with you guys, lots of comments. We loved it, so we thought we would jump on again. I know a lot of you all weren't able to attend this one, as many as in Memphis, and we are very excited. We did video a few parts of it that we'll be putting on the next few days so you all can see for yourselves and hear for yourselves, but a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm kicking it to you.
I know, I got that. No, welcome in. Just going to let some more of you join in. Yeah, it's been a really exciting weekend.
Yes.
and a tiring weekend for Holly and I, because as we said, we literally got up Saturday morning, drove to Memphis, did the book tour event that night, and then drove back today, and then hurriedly went to the Nashville one. But yeah, it's been, such an exciting weekend. I'm so glad, and I feel so blessed that not only did we get to attend one of her stops, but 2 of her stops.
Yes.
And again, this is kind of just our way of updating you all and bringing a little bit of it to you all that didn't have the chance to go, or, unfortunately, it's a pretty small book tour. Like, I think it's only a total of 6 or 7 stops.
Yeah, not many.
And so for majority of you all, you're not going to be able to get to go to one or attend one. So this is kind of our way of bringing a little bit about what went on with the Riley book tour to you all. But yeah, both were great nights and great events. Honestly, I felt like tonight was even better than the Memphis one. I really enjoyed the Memphis one, but, Holly and I were discussing this in the car on the way home. I felt like Riley seemed much more comfortable and confident and at ease tonight.
Relaxed.
Than she did in Memphis. And I think that's probably for a number of reasons. I think Memphis was very daunting for her.
Absolutely.
For numerous reasons. I mean, you are in the
Mecca
of Elvis and Graceland, and you're where all the diehard tried and true Elvis and Lisa Marie fans are and come. Like, I think people, like, if they were planning on trying to do one of her book stops, I think that most everybody tried to plan the Memphis one, because it is something so special. As we said, it's kind of like when Holly and I got to go to the Elvis movie premiere at Graceland. There's just something so special about going to these events actually at Graceland.
Yeah.
And so I think that was probably very daunting for her. I think, that was only her second stop. And so I think she, was still kind of trying to work out the emotions and the nerves a little bit. But as she's done more of these, and she's done the Oprah special, she did all the talk show tours this week for the book release. I think she's getting more comfortable and more confident.
Well, and Nashville's a different city too. Like, I will guess. I don't think that the majority of the audience were actually Elvis fans. I think Nashville is such a book community and such a booky place.
Well, they have such an artistic and music place.
There's a lot of book tours that come through here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of authors that come and promote their book, and just the Nashville community, especially Belmont University with the college and all that, they just love a good book. They love discussing things with authors. So I'm going to say maybe it was 50-50.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, yes, were like us and there. But I mean, like I told Heather, I enjoy book tours whether they're Elvis related or not. Like, I could go to a book conversation as long as I'm interested in the subject. I could go for anything and be thoroughly entertained. So I want to say it was like, half and half. So I think she maybe didn't have the pressure on her of like, oh my gosh, These are like Elvis
Yeah.
fanatics and fans, and she was more at ease because these were more kind of intellectual, booky people that enjoyed that.
Well, and this was actually held at a theater on Belmont University's campus, which, if any of you all are familiar with Nashville, Belmont is a major music university here in town.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's where like the who's who have gone to.
Who.
Like, I'm like pretty sure Vince Gill went there.
I think
whatever.
Garth went for a little bit.
Yeah, I think Keith Urban went there. So it's kind of like the mecca when it comes to like if you're interested in music and musicians and artistry like that, Nashville, Tennessee and Belmont University is the place to go. So I think that probably drew a lot of people as well tonight because there did seem to be a lot more younger people there tonight.
Yes.
And I'm sure this was advertised on their campus. And I'm telling you, I think a lot of those people were Riley Keough fans.
Yeah,
I think a lot of them knew her as Daisy Jones, and I think they knew her as, you know, all her other like movies and stuff she's done. I think they also, which I didn't even know she was in a Justin Timberlake video till I discovered it here a few months ago.
Oh yeah, she's been in a lot.
Yeah, and she's doing her whole Chanel thing. So I think a lot of people there tonight were fans of hers and knew her that way, and maybe even they just discovered that, oh wow, she's Elvis Presley's granddaughter as well.
Yeah.
You know, because when you hear her name, Riley Keough, you don't naturally associate it unless you're in the Elvis family in the know and you're like us and you follow everything Elvis.
Right.
You know, you might not have known, like she's Elvis's granddaughter. So I think that brought a different audience as well.
Yeah, and we'll go through a few things. Like I think I'm going to touch on the actual interview itself and like some pros and cons we thought about it, and then Heather's going to really deep dive into the questions and answers and, you know, all those meaty topics. But first and foremost, I'm going to do a little caveat. The only thing I was not happy with, and I think everybody in the audience was they were not prepared, I don't think, at Belmont. Like the dean of the music college came out. I forget her name. But she literally kept making mistake after mistake in her introduction. Yeah, like she got Lisa's death year wrong. She kept calling Riley Keough instead of Keough. And I was like, this does not look good on Belmont. So I'm just doing a PSA announcement. Belmont, do better. Do better. It was embarrassing. Like there was a hush among the crowd when she was making the mistakes, and we were like,
it was just cringeworthy.
It was cringeworthy.
You know, you're like, oh.
So that's my con. My pro, Holly Williams, another great interviewer. Like I've said, we have been iffy about all of these stars and special guests that she's been having, but I was pleasantly surprised with Nicole Richie. And tonight I was very pleasantly surprised with Holly Williams. If you don't know who that is, Hank Williams Sr. is like the Elvis of the country music world. I mean, he is like the father of country music, and his son also had an illustrious career, Hank Williams Jr., one of my faves. And then Holly Williams is his daughter. So she has also grown up in a musical family of legends. Her grandfather was a legend. Her dad is a star in his own right. So I really felt like she had a good connection. And I didn't know this about her. She recently lost her sister, which is Katie or Kathy. I can't remember. Katie, a couple of years ago to a tragic car accident. So I was like, wow, this is the parallels between them. She was a great interviewer. You could tell she knew her stuff. She had read the book. She asked poignant questions. She was very present and involved and just had great things to also interject in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this about the moderators. You know, again, we've been talking about it for weeks, who were going to be the guests. And then we finally figured out who they were. We figured out they were going to be the moderators. And, you know, at first, even when I read like who the moderators were, I was kind of like, you know, well, some of these are interesting choices because what do they have to do with Lisa and Riley and what's the connection there and everything? Like, I know, you know, Gayle King is Oprah's best friend and that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of you were saying that Nicole Richie was actually a longtime friend of Lisa's. And then, and I think of Riley's as well. And then I know Billy Corgan was a really close friend of Lisa's. But Holly Williams, you know, I'm thinking at first I'm like, you know, I just don't understand why they didn't get moderators that like either really knew like the Elvis world, like we were talking about Tom Brown, or, you know, even people that were associated with the Elvis world, like Jerry Schilling, or, you know, people that really were close to Lisa and to Riley and stuff. But then again, after like listening to Holly Williams, especially tonight, and I was super impressed with her. I thought she did an even better job than Nicole Richie, and I'll explain why in a second. But I was like, you know, it's kind of, it makes sense. It's a breath of fresh air that they got somebody like Holly Williams that was familiar obviously, with the Presley family. How could you not be? But not so familiar that she really knew a lot about them and about their life story and everything. So she kind of brought this different, like, fresh perspective and almost kind of not a tainted impression or, you know, ideas and stuff with her. And so I thought that made sense then. And I was like, this is really cool. And yeah, like as she was sitting there talking and she kind of introduced herself, I was like, holy cow, this could not be a more perfect match, because her and Riley had just met tonight.
Oh, wow.
Like she said, like that, you know, they just like talked backstage, like right before and everything. And so, but when she started talking about her life and about how, you know, she basically grew up in a celebrity family and how iconic her grandfather was and her father was, and then losing her grandfather and losing him to addiction, and then losing her sister tragically at a young age, and that kind of being her first real experience with death as well, just like Riley's was with Ben, I was like, good gosh, this is such like a perfect match on this stage right now of like really understanding and having empathy and stuff for this person. And I thought Holly did a great job because, you know, to where Nicole asked very good questions and stuff, and she was very prepared. She was almost what I call scripted. Like she was literally like, she had her notes, she was reading them, she was reading her questions, she was making sure she was dotting her T's, dotting her I's, crossing her T's. But Holly came across like literally her and Riley were just having a conversation.
Yeah. Very natural.
It was very conversational, you know, and they were just sitting there and she was just kind of like asking questions and whatever. And yeah, you really got a sense from Holly that she really saw herself in Riley, in this book, in, you know, the pages and stuff, which I just thought made it even more emotional and a much better like experience for the audience.
Well, and you know, the more I think about it with this whole book tour and the last few days and stuff, I kind of think I'm seeing a bigger picture, and which is what I think Raleigh and probably, of course, the publishing company and everybody involved in this book kind of wanted to see. All of the people like us that just adore Elvis. I mean, of course, we adore Lisa and Raleigh because they are a part of Elvis. But we so much focus on Elvis, Elvis, Elvis. What about Elvis? What about this and Elvis? What about Elvis with this? And it's not about Elvis. Like is he a foreshadowing figure, and is he an integral part in this? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they are trying to bring the focus to Lisa, her purpose, her life's work. And I really think they're trying to market this book as a book on how to deal with grief, complex families, and just, you know, addiction, families that deal with all these things. So I've got, you know, sometimes I think we as Elvis fans need to take a step back and be like, okay, they're not going to talk 98% of the time about Elvis.
Yeah.
We got to get past that. So I'm learning that as we're going with this.
Well, I think also in going to a couple of these book tours now, and, you know, kind of thinking about the Oprah interview as well, I also think that, yes, there's a thread of something running through this book tour and Riley's interviews and the questions she's being asked, the things that she's answering and everything. Because when Holly and I left Memphis, you know, and we were kind of talking about that, and I will say this, we've started the book. So we started the audio on our way back from Memphis, and we're probably like a little more than halfway through.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, I left Memphis and I was like, you know, well, why didn't she talk about this subject in the book more? Why didn't they ask her more hard-hitting questions? Why didn't they ask her about this? Why is she not delving more into like Elvis and like, you know, what Lisa said about Elvis and, you know, just different things. I was like, why? And then tonight, you know, I still was kind of like, this is interesting, because I felt like tonight, a lot of the questions that Holly asked and a lot of the things they discussed were very much the same as what was asked and discussed in Memphis.
Yes.
There wasn't like a whole lot of different, like Riley did, you know, maybe add a little bit more to certain questions. She maybe did recall a different like story or something she added to it or whatever. And there were some different questions, and the audience questions were different.
Yeah.
But it was pretty much, you know, like a lot of the same like information and stuff. But I started thinking about it. And processing it. And I was like, you know, I really think what Holly's saying is the thread of this. I think, you know how sometimes you hear like politicians or celebrities that go into like interviews and things, and you hear them say like they gave a list of questions that I could be asked, but they also gave subjects like, don't ask me this. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to delve into this. I don't know that Riley per se did that.
Yeah, this is just our opinion.
Yeah, this
we have no idea.
Again, it's my 2 cents. And again, we know how much that's worth. But yeah, I just wonder if maybe she did give a little idea of things she wanted to discuss and talk about and maybe not talk about. And I can totally like see that, because I think Holly is right. I think that with this book, Riley so wants to honor her mom and her legacy and her memory. And she so wants to make this a book about her mom. She wants people to know Lisa Marie. She wasn't just Elvis Presley's daughter. She was a human. She was complex. She had so much to her and so much to offer to the world outside of just being Elvis's daughter. And I think Riley wants that to come through. And I do. I think she wants to focus on this book as a positive thing. And I think she wants, as we talked about in Memphis the other night, this is her mother's purpose. And she wants this to be her mother's purpose and to carry it out, to help people with grief and sadness and tragedy. And one thing that Riley said tonight that made me like think even more this that I'm saying and really hit it home for me is, you know, she keeps talking about how like, yes, was my mother's life tragic? Did it have tragedy in it? Yes,
Well,
but it was not a tragedy. Her life was not.
Her life was not tragic. She just led a life with tragedy in it, which we all
Yes.
do.
And I think that's like what she's trying to like say is I think she wants you to know, you know, like, yes, she had this death and she had addiction and all these other things, but through that life, she also had joy and laughter. And, you know, she was a mother first and foremost, and that was the most important role of her life. And, you know, she loved music and she did the whole music career thing and everything. And, you know, she was insecure and she had doubts and she had, and so I think Riley wants you to see and hear and know all of that and wants that thread and that theme to come through. And so sometimes I think maybe focusing on some of the other stuff that's in the book and the other topics is maybe not the route she wants to go in these like tours and interviews and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And now that see, and guys, this is what we're doing. This is how you process. Like the more, like I have to, like I think we all need to, I think everybody's reading the book or listening to it, but I also think you need to kind of give it some time after you've read it and think about things. And like discussions like this are so great because they bring up different points of view. We all have different points of views and things on that. From what I've gathered these last 2 or 3 days and we'll get into that because like I say, we have started the book. We had not started it on our last live, which was Saturday night, and you guys really came through with some serious comments. We have heard some of that in the book. But I think in Riley's defense, the reason she does not bring up a lot of these kind of horrible, tragic things is because I don't think she wants that to define Lisa.
Yes.
And she doesn't want that to be the focus.
Again, she wants it to be known.
Yeah.
Again, she wants it to be known that her mother's life was tragic and had tragic things, but her mother's life was not a tragedy.
Yeah. And I almost
That's
think
not all it
Lisa was
about.
that way too. Because like even, like I said, we're just listening. We haven't read it yet. And you know, you all know there's 2 different things when you listen to something and when you read it. That's why we're listening to it now, but I think I'm going to go back and just like read the pages. But even in some of these instances, and y'all know what I'm talking about, where Lisa's talking about like horrific things, she's not, and I don't want to say the word flippant or nonchalant, but I mean, kind of
Just very matter of fact.
Matter of fact, and very, I'm over it. Here's what happened. What's done is done. Move on. Like she doesn't dwell on them. She doesn't really go into detail. She's just like, here's what happened. Move on. And I think that is kind of what Riley is trying to honor. I think they could have spent an hour conversation just on the tragedies or just on one particular, like many horrific things happen. They could do that, but I think Riley doesn't want to do that.
Because what I will say and kind of why we're saying this is during these book tours, at least the 2 that we've been to, it might have been different in New York. It might be different in the one in LA. And I think there's one in the UK. It might be different, but so far, you know, in these interviews, nothing has been touched on about Priscilla or that relationship. Nothing's been touched on about like her relationship with Vernon. Nothing's been really touched on about Ben's death per se, you know, like the things about, other than like what was on Oprah, like, you know, they did delve into it on Oprah and stuff, about, you know, her keeping Ben at home and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise it's very much almost seemed like they've really tried to keep it on target of, you know, like my mother, you know, experienced firsthand what so many other people out there, like when it comes down to it, we're just a normal family that has tragedy and ups and downs and trials and tribulations, just like every other family. And, we've just tried to deal with it the best we can. And we know everybody else out there is dealing with it. And so if in some way, Lisa can use her celebrityism and her voice and her legacy to help someone, go through a tragedy, especially like, losing their father at a young age, and then how you navigate life after losing a parent that young, and then how you navigate life as a mother losing a son, losing a child. Like, what does life look like after those tragedies, and then how do you navigate that? And I think that's a lot of what she keeps talking about on these book tours.
Yeah, and Riley mentioned it tonight. She said, someone came up to her a few days ago and said, do you feel like your family is cursed? And she was like, no. She was like, death happens to everyone.
Addiction happens to everyone.
And but she was like, everyone in the room is going to lose somebody or has lost somebody. I mean, that is just a fact. But the addiction, she also said that about addiction. She was like, how many, like probably if we'd done a show of hands, 95% of the people in the audience would have been like, do you know of someone in your family or have a friend or whatever that suffers with addiction? Everybody been like, even Holly Williams said, Holly was like, our family has totally suffered with addiction. But there's a lot, and just because they're celebrities, there's a lot of just super normal, non-celebrity families that all deal with that. So she was like, I don't feel cursed. I think a lot of times we romanticize things like that. Like, you could also say the Kennedys are cursed.
Yeah. Well, it's because like she said, how many people have literally a lens and a microscope on their life 24/7. Everything you do, everything you say, every move you make is ridiculed and picked apart by everybody. Like that would be a tough row to hoe, if you had that and everything. And so, I think, that it's so easy too for people to go straight for the negative and the bad and the sad and the, oh, poor Lisa Marie, and look at what all she's had. But we've also got to, like Riley said, there's so much more to her and her life. And, like when Riley, it's like so nice to see her. And I posted that picture purposefully on Holly's Facebook because Riley has Lisa and Elvis's exact laugh and grin. And smile. Like when that picture I posted of her, that is Elvis.
It is.
That is
It's
Elvis
like
laughing.
Elvis,
That is Elvis like coming through her laughing. But it's so nice on these book tours to hear her again talk about the love and the life and the joy and not just the tragedy. She talks about like all the great things Lisa did at holidays and how important they were and like the fun things she would do. She told great stories tonight about how, Lisa would have like friends and family over for the holidays and like Easter and stuff, and that Lisa loved to give away things like Elvis did. So a lot of times like at Easter she would give away baby chicks or little bunnies or goats.
She cracked me up about the goats. She was like, now that I'm an adult, these people come back and go, we were really annoyed that your mother sent us home with some chickens, and I go, what were we going to do with it? And I'm like,
so like Riley,
typical Lisa, typical Elvis.
So like Riley and Ben's friends would come over for the holidays to celebrate, and Lisa would give them these animals, and they'd take them home, and their parents would be like, I don't know what to do with a goat or a chicken, and that's just so funny, and that's so like,
but in her mind, it was completely normal.
And that's so something that Elvis would have done, and so but like it's little stuff like that's so funny. And she talked about how they would go on vacations and they would go on trips and they'd ride horses and skydive, do all these crazy things that are just like so normal and so like joyful and stuff. So it's nice to hear and see all of that. And it's nice, like Holly and I were even saying, I've been an Elvis fan for as long as I can remember. And much of my Elvis world revolves just around Elvis. And I mean, of course, I've known who Lisa Marie is. I've followed her a little bit through the years. If she was like on an interview with like Oprah or something, I would watch it. Or if there was a magazine with her in it, I would pick it up and read the article. But I didn't really like delve into Lisa much more than just like she's Elvis Presley's only daughter.
Right.
I had never really listened to her music very much until recently, because, they've started playing it on Sirius Radio as well. And then I really started kind of listening to her songs and music, and I was like, oh, I really like some of this. This is like a really good song. I really enjoy this. So I'm starting to like learn more about Lisa and who she was as a person and everything. And really, unfortunately with this whole tragedy, I feel like I'm doing that same thing with Riley. I really didn't know much at all about Riley before this. I hadn't really like watched any of her movies or TV shows she was in or followed her career or whatever. I just vaguely knew that Lisa Marie had kids, but now I'm starting to kind of follow Riley and learn more about her. And I just think she is, and Holly Williams kept saying that tonight. She's like, you're just such a lovely amazing person.
Yeah, she does.
And I really think Riley is, and I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, and me being the Southerner I'm very happy because Riley is not a Southerner. She was, grew up in LA and in Florida, and she'll say herself, I'm not Southern, but I have such Southern tendencies. Like I think she's got Southern in her soul, because she talks about how much she wants to carry on like the Southern traditions of her family. So that makes me very happy. I'm super happy about that, because Southern traditions are great, y'all. They're so good. So I can totally relate to the
and that's nice to hear.
Food.
Yeah, and that's nice to hear Riley talk about too. Because sometimes I think we've all questioned that and talked about that amongst our Elvis loving selves. Is now that Riley is at the helm of Graceland, what does she think about it? What does she think about Elvis? What does she think about her family history and her legacy? And I feel like we're getting to hear and see and know a little bit more of that now. Like she talked about on the Oprah interview that she, for a long time, did not like Elvis. She was angry at him, because she felt like he had caused her mom all this pain and grief that she suffered her entire life. But it's nice to hear on these things because she talks a little bit about like how, much Memphis and Graceland kind of meant to her as a child and how she really gravitated towards the like Southern things. Like she loved the way that, when she went to Graceland, she loved the way that her mom and Aunt Delta and Patsy all talked to each other and their Southern isms and the things they said. When Holly Williams asked her about some of her fondest memories of going to Graceland, she said, Ben and I couldn't wait to go and get banana pudding.
Because evidently they don't have it in LA.
Yeah. And if they do, she said it is not the same. So she said they were so excited to get, and Elvis still had the cooks there that were with Elvis. And when Lisa Marie would come home, she would have them cook for her and the kids and the family. And, she said, we couldn't wait for banana pudding,
That's so cute.
And, she said they also loved like the outdoors, like this, the smell of, Memphis and the sounds and, riding the golf course and being out on the lawn and everything, that it was just, a different air and feeling. Yeah. So it's nice to hear her talk about that.
Yeah, it really was. And as far as like Heather said, I'm trying to think if there was anything interesting we learned or a question that was maybe a little bit different. We did hear about not only the title of the book, but the picture, if you want to talk about that a little bit. Oh, well, Holly just asked her, how did you come up with the title? And how did you come up with the picture? Which she's answered it several times about the title. But she said it was very interesting. She said when she first came to the publisher, she had just that little picture of Lisa as a little girl. It was like, here's the cover. And they were kind of like, it looks kind of strange because, there's like a man behind her and people are going to wonder who is that. And maybe we should, crop out the picture a little bit more. And she's like, but I didn't want Elvis fully on the cover because I didn't want it to take away from her. So she's like, that's kind of why it's cut off right there at the edge of his face. Because she's like, you only see a part of him, which I think is great and haunting. And you see him behind her, like almost overshadowing and being like the main background of her life and of her. So I thought it was an awesome picture. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
As a picture, and the way they even cropped it and all that is really interesting. So I thought that was an interesting take to find out.
Yeah. Because I've been wondering that, like, why did they choose this? And was it Lisa that chose it? I think we all thought, did Lisa choose the title and did she choose the photograph before she passed away? And apparently neither of those were the case. Apparently, even with the title, I think Riley said, didn't she say she was given like a list of like titles to choose from? And then she just, thought this was most appropriate. And then like, the pictures, she kind of, wanted that one. But yeah, she said she was just, a little hesitant about putting Elvis on there. But then, once it came to, she really liked it and everything because it was just, kind of like half of his presence there, because she was like, this is all about my mom, but she's like, Elvis is a very big part of my mom's story and kind of shaped the rest of her life and everything, his death. So truly appropriate that he's on there.
Absolutely. And then I'm trying to think, there's a couple of other, they had 2 or 3 great audience questions. And one of them was, what was Riley's favorite memory of Elvis that Lisa had told her about? And Riley said, there was just so many, but she really enjoyed all the funny stories. She mainly enjoys hearing about, how funny Elvis was and the funny, like kind of little Southernisms, I guess you'd say he did, and the way they talked to one another. And so I thought that was cute. And then I can't remember the third, there was like 3 questions and I cannot remember what that third one was, but they were all really good questions. Like I said, we videoed it, so we'll post them up there. I'm trying to think if there were any other questions that I thought were interesting.
There's something I just thought of, and now it's skipped my mind.
You know, they asked Riley which one of her
that was it.
characters
Yeah.
most she thought she was most like. And, you know, she did the typical actor answers, like, I always try to find a little part of myself in every character I play. But
yeah, she basically said the one that, you know, meant the most to her was the Daisy Jones character, because she said that it very much reminded her of Lisa Marie.
And her performance was most inspired.
Yeah, of her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's kind of what, you know, inspired it and everything. And Holly kind of asked that as well, like, you know, what part of, you know, being the granddaughter of Elvis and the daughter of Lisa Marie kind of did you use for your like material for like that character and everything. And, you know, she just basically said that it made sense for her because her and Ben went on tour with Lisa, and, you know, they had grown up, you know, going on tour and being, you know, in the audience and backstage and kind of seeing that lifestyle on the road and performing and singing. And they were in the studio with Lisa. And so I think that role and that part came very naturally to her. And yeah, she just said that the character just reminded her so much of her mom as soon as she read it and everything, you know, and that's what she even told the producers is she's like, you know, this character is very like personal and close to me because it makes me think of my mom and reminds me of her.
Very familiar. This life that this singer is going to lead in this like story is very familiar.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure that was a big kudos probably to the directors and stuff of hiring her.
And it was interesting to hear her talk about that role as well, because, you know, she said that, you know, before that she had never really sang and she hadn't, you know, pursued singing or whatever. And then, you know, she said actually her and the other lead character, neither one were singers. And, you know, when they approached them about singing, at first they were like, well, we can probably just get singers.
Yeah, get a backup
singer. We can just, you know, like have you lip sync and we can dub their vocals over yours and stuff. And she said, I was kind of like, no. And she's like, that pushed me even more to like want to try to sing and to do it myself. And then, you know, she got like a vocal coach and stuff and she did. So I thought that was really cool and interesting. Cool. And she told, you know, she kind of told a cool story about, because Holly asked her about what Lisa Marie and Danny thought about her getting into entertainment. Yeah. And like kind of how she got into the entertainment world and kind of what was their opinion and everything. And I thought that spoke a lot to like Lisa's mothering and her character is, you know, she said, Riley said from a young age, she kind of was always interested in film and like writing. And she said she would write books and stories all the time. She would make little movies all the time. She said that she would like, you know, enlist Ben and her friends to be like characters. And she said she loved making horror movies. And she said she got that from Lisa Marie because she said Lisa Marie was a horror movie fanatic. And she was like, I would make these horror movies and I'd have like Ben and like with ketchup all over him, bloody. And she said like my other friends would be tied to a tree. And she was like, so it was just kind of like, you know, something I wanted to do and pursue. But she said as she got older, you know, Lisa Marie was very much like, you know, I don't want you pursuing this unless you're going to be great at it. Like you're going to have, again, a microscope, a lens on you. And if you're going to do this and you're going to pursue a career in the public eye and in entertainment, you have got to be great. You got to work hard and you got to put in the effort and you got to be great at it. And she was like, and I really did. She's like, it made sense to me. And she's like, I worked really hard.
Well, it's the whole thing. I think Lisa was so worried. They call it Nepo baby syndrome. And she's like, you know, there's so many, which there's so many celebrity children that try to follow exactly in the footsteps. And Riley even said it. She said, you know, I learned to play the piano by ear, but she said, my mom and dad never pushed music on me. And she's like, I think it was on purpose. Like, she's like, I think they would have died if she'd been like, I'm going to grow up and be a singer. She's like, I really think they'd have been like, but this is still a creative outlet, but yet it's not exactly like Lisa and Elvis. But yeah, and that's great advice from Lisa because it is so telling because you always get these celebrity kids that just think they should be the star in a movie or the star of this because their dad or
they ride their family name coattails.
Absolutely.
They don't work for it. They just think it's owed to them.
And Lisa didn't want that for her.
No.
You know, even in the book they always talking about Lisa never wanted to live where the celebrities lived. She never wanted to go to school
like the limelight
where they were going. She didn't want Riley and them to go where the celebrity kids went. So, which is very interesting because that's not a lot of celebrity children. Most celebrity children, I feel like, are super like spoiled and want all the accolades and they want to go to the ritzy school and they want to be, you know, where all the celebrities live and go and the spotlight. And, you know, and now that I think about it, because, you know, you always hear about everybody's children were always at like Studio 54 or, you know, wherever the hottest places were in LA and New York. And I never remember Lisa ever being to any of those places. So she just didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to look at some questions or
Sure.
comments and see what people are
Sure.
doing? We'll look at some of your questions and comments, but overall, it was just a really lovely evening, a lovely conversation with both women. It was great to see her once again and to kind of see her in a more, I'd say, natural setting, state. I don't know if you would call it that. But, and then too, we'll get your comments and questions and stuff because everybody's blowing up. I see all your comments about the book and about the interesting tragedies in the book, and we're going to get to those. We're starting Holly and Heather's Elvis Book Club. It's going to start in a few weeks, and we're going to take it chapter by chapter. We're going to do a deep dive because it's so hard to do like here's an overall thing. We're talking about the entire book. So we're going to try to do a little book club and do chapter by chapter and really deep dive and get your opinions on it. So be thinking of your questions. Be thinking of topics you want to discuss. I'll post on here in a few weeks and ask you, but we really want to give everybody time to read the book. Some people like to reread the book. Some people want to listen and read the book. And then time to process, to think about it, think about what all we want to talk about. But we will be doing that in the future. So don't you worry. Any questions, Heather, or comments people are making?
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're keeping the conversation to tonight is we're kind of just keeping these conversations to more of the book tour.
Yes.
From Memphis and the interview and the book tour tonight in Nashville and just kind of, like highlights and what our thoughts and opinions were and what was asked, what was said, what we thought were some of the poignant moments and things and kind of keeping it more on that. Cause again, I know there was the whole thing when we were live from Memphis the other night that, a lot of you had read the book and a lot of you were, talking about the Priscilla stuff and about her being at the Memphis one. But we're going to save all of that for when we do our book club and our deep dive.
I know we need to have a instead of the book club. And we'll think it over.
And I'm like you guys with all of that. I'm still like processing it all.
Yeah.
Like
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. Anyway, so hello everybody. By the way, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate you all. You're so amazing. Yes. And it was so great to see so many of you tonight. I see Shelly on here. It was great to meet you tonight. I know we met.
I know we saw so many besties at the place. Yes. It's so great to see you guys.
Jane is asking if she had a special guest tonight. She did not. However, Riley did say during the interview that she had a lot of family members in the audience tonight. I don't really know who. Like we had a friend that said that they heard somebody say that Priscilla's brother, one of her brothers was there.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is correct or not. Some people said they thought Danny was there tonight, which I can't imagine. Yeah, a lot of people were saying they thought he was definitely there with her in Memphis, but I can see that too. I almost wouldn't be very surprised if he actually wasn't going on this entire tour with her.
Yeah.
Just because, he seems very close to Riley as well, and he seems very protective and stuff. And like we said, I'm sure this is very mentally and physically and emotionally exhausting and draining for her. And so to have, your dad there and to have that support is, I'm sure, wonderful. And too, he's such a big part of the book and the story and about Lisa's story that,
but on the flip side of that, you'll never know. I don't think we'll ever know if he even went on the tour because he's so private.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll ever come out.
But it'd be so cool, to know he's there. But no, other than Holly, she did not have a special guest. Let's see.
I'm trying to see.
Yeah, a lot of you are asking about our Facebook Live for Memphis. Just go back on Holly's Facebook. We did it on Saturday night.
Yeah, and it's only on Facebook. It's probably a lot. Tonight, we're actually on Facebook and YouTube. I didn't do that Saturday because I forgot. So if you're watching us on YouTube, our Saturday night live is only on Facebook. So just go to the Facebook page. It's Holly Norman.
Hey, Teresa. So good to see you tonight. Wendy says, hey, Wendy, thanks for staying up with us. She says, I really get the impression it was much more about grief and recovery than a true memoir. I'm still processing it all too. I think so, Wendy. And another great thing that I thought was a very poignant statement from tonight. I thought there was three actually tonight. I thought the one about, sorry, and I have to say this now, I'll read some more of your questions, but you know me, my brain goes like, but the one that Riley said tonight about that her mother's life had tragic events and tragedies, but her life was not a tragedy. Very poignant. I also thought, when they were kind of talking about just everything Lisa had gone through, with her father's death, with battling addiction, with even her divorces, with losing Ben. Holly Williams said, something that really resonated with me during the book, and then Riley said it too, is, she was like, no matter what was going on in my mom's life, or no matter what tragedy was happening or she was in the midst of, she tried. She tried. Yes. And that was like, and Holly was like, yes, I totally agree. And I got that. She was like, your mother did. She tried. And Riley was like, and that's all we can do in life. That's all we can expect. The best we can expect from someone who is facing grief or loss or tragedy or addiction is that you just try. You try to get through it. You try to go on. You try to make life better and joyful and better. Yeah, and try to make it joyful and find those moments of joy and happiness, is that you just keep trying. And that's all that you can do. So I thought that was a major running theme tonight, is that she tried. And then I also thought one thing that was super touching, and I know some of you were asking about this, that was super touching that Riley said as well, is, Lisa did get to meet Tupelo. Yeah. And she did get to spend some time with Tupelo, but not what we wish she had and could have. But, Riley said that, I want to say it right. She said,
about her mothering.
Yeah. What was the thing?
She said that Lisa is mothering through her. Like,
yeah, but there was like a certain way that Riley said it, and then Holly said it. And I'm trying to think.
I'm mothering the way.
My mother is mothering through my motherhood. Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, like my mother is mothering Tupelo through me, through my motherhood. Like, yeah, so basically she was just saying that, like, even though Lisa is gone now, she said she still literally mothers Tupelo the way that Lisa mothered her, and that she hears Lisa in her head. Like, she was telling the story last time and tonight about how, like, the first time Tupelo had like a really high fever, she said, I literally could hear my mom in my head saying, don't worry about it. It's okay. She's going to be fine. Every baby has a high fever, unless it gets like 104 and above, don't worry about it. She's like I literally hear her. And she's like, she's mothering through me. She's mothering my daughter through me. Yes. And I just thought that was so like heartbreaking, yet so like lovely. Wonderful. Yeah. Like that literally her and Lisa had that close and great of a relationship, and Lisa was such a great mother. And, that was also one of her great purposes in life, was to just be the best mother she could, and to just smother those kids with love and happiness and joy. And, that, she's still carrying that on with her daughter.
And here's an interesting comment. Tammy. Hello, Tammy. She's saying that last night, Riley talked a little bit about Lisa and Priscilla, and she said that they would bicker and make up, but she said they really had a deep love for each other. Good to know. Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can find the St. Louis interview with the Smashing Pumpkins guy.
Billy.
So, like I say, all of this is super complicated. You cannot get more complicated than Elvis and the Presleys. I mean, it's complicated all the way around. Everybody in the family is complicated. And there's, a lot. There's a lot to go through and a lot to talk about. But we've got the next few weeks.
Everybody's saying that they can't wait for us to do our book club. Sherry's saying, I can't wait. I will love that. I have no one to talk to about the book. Well, you can talk to us.
Somebody said they don't know we have a Facebook account. It is Holly Norman. Check it out. And we also just started an Instagram called Everything Elvis and Entertainment. Go check it out and follow.
So good to see you tonight too, Cheryl. Yeah, I am. A lot of people are asking what we think of the book so far. I mean, overall, like I said, I'm enjoying it. I think the Riley versus Julia Roberts reading versus the tapes of Lisa Marie, I think is all a very interesting dynamic.
It is.
The way that they've kind of, title this together and stuff. I think Julia's doing a really nice job.
I do too.
Of reading. I really enjoy her voice.
Yeah.
Her voice to me is very kind of soothing, and I enjoy her reading. Like I said, we're not like, I don't feel like super far into the book, but I'm just gonna say right now, I'm processing a lot. There's
gonna be a lot to talk about, y'all.
Yeah. There's a lot of heavy and shocking and surprising and interesting revelations and things coming through that I want to finish and see where it all ends. I do really love Lisa's candor though on a lot of things that she
Yeah.
said, which again we'll talk about when we do our big thing.
Let's see. Somebody's asking about, on a different subject, our Elvis picture. It's not one of a kind, no. And we got this at TJ Maxx, but we got it a gazillion years ago, so I don't know that they still have it. But probably if you checked out eBay, I'm sure someone on there has it. But yes, this is a TJ Maxx find from Heather.
Oh, don't worry, sweet. You've got time to read the book. She says, I haven't read the book yet or haven't, so it was be spoilers for me. Yeah, that's why we're also not trying to like say too much. Although I feel like that's also been a good thing about this book tour, because I don't feel like if you are going to it without having read the book yet, kind of like we did, I don't think it's spoiling anything for you. I think it's probably just giving you a good like idea and synopsis of the intent behind the book, the meaning of the book, what you're gonna read and find out, and then you'll be able to kind of like use these interviews and stuff, you know, when you do read it.
Yeah, somebody. Let's see. Yeah, somebody was saying that there was a comment Ginger recently made about Lisa Marie's book.
Well, that's kind of what I was talking about, Lisa being very candid.
Yes.
That was one of the things I was meaning, that Lisa was candid.
I mean, if you don't, she's like Hitler. If you don't want to know the truth, don't ask. Yeah. Don't ask her.
Oh, I love that, Linda. I figured so. She said that Riley's husband and Tupelo are on tour with her.
Oh, that's cute.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's awesome. I'm glad it's a family affair.
Yeah, me too. Yes, Lorianne Priscilla was the special guest in Memphis. It was an interesting night. Let's see. A lot of people are still waiting on their book to arrive. Gosh. I know sometimes this mail, it takes forever, you know?
Yeah. Anne is saying, I feel bad that Riley calls Elvis Elvis and not my grandfather. Well, you know, Anne, that's the interesting thing too. And actually, I kind of said that similar thing to Holly after I watched the Oprah interview.
Yeah. But I just saw a comment on here, and somebody else like commented back and said that they didn't call their grandfather. They just called him by his name.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like, I mean, I don't know. It's just a very weird situation. I mean, I feel like, you know, she's in these interviews and stuff, and so she knows she's speaking to Elvis fans. And so I think sometimes it's easier for just her to refer to him as Elvis. But we've also got to remember that, you know, Riley per se didn't know Elvis as grandfather. She kind of knew him as Elvis.
Yeah.
She kind of knew him as Elvis Presley. And so and I do feel like on the Oprah interview and in these interviews, I feel like she's kind of sometimes gone back and forth. Like sometimes
somebody
she'll
on here,
say Elvis.
I can't see your name, but they were saying
sometimes she'll say Elvis, and then sometimes she'll refer to him as grandpa. I think it's in the context of the question or whatever she's saying. I think, you know, it's just sometimes easier for her to say Elvis, so people definitively know.
Well, and she's talking about and it's just a preference. Like our grandfathers, like I have, you know, our Papa, but sometimes I'll call him Papa Bill.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or just Papa. But I think it's almost odd if she were to be like, Grandpa Elvis. I'd be like, ooh, that's weird. Yeah. I don't know. It just sounds weird. But
it just makes me laugh because also sometimes when I've heard her, because I thought that same thing too, but I was like, you know, it's just probably like different for her, you know, not having known him. And I mean, she wasn't even born till like years past his passing. But it also kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I also always think of those stories, you know, you hear Elvis and like people tell about Lisa when she was little, and Lisa, you know, always heard people call Elvis Elvis. Like, you know, all the fans called him Elvis and screamed his name, Elvis, you know, outside of Graceland and at concerts, and all the mafia called him Elvis or Big E. And so, you know, Lisa, like there's a whole story about how she started calling him Elvis. And she would run around the house and, you know, say, Elvis. And he would be like, sweetheart, don't call me Elvis, call me Daddy. And she went, okay, Elvis. That's just so funny. That's just so funny to me. So sometimes when I think of and hear Riley call him Elvis, I'm like, I can just see little Lisa calling him Elvis.
Yeah.
I know, Deborah, we are. She's saying we're so lucky to live where we do. We absolutely are.
Yeah. Somebody, let's see who was saying, Cheryl says that she thinks Riley channels Lisa and Elvis
Mm.
through her smile and laugh. I totally agree.
Like it's eerie.
It is eerie to see her laugh
and that
smile.
was a really cute story she told.
About the lips?
Yes,
Yeah, tell it. Yeah,
that
was
such a cute story that Riley told too. Because, and I think she says this in the book too, and then Holly made reference to it because they were like looking at the book cover and stuff, and Holly was talking about, you know, the like Cupid's bow that Riley and them call it. Lisa, they call Elvis's like lips.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Lisa got the Cupid's bow, Riley and Ben got it. And she's like, it's like a Presley thing. Like we all have the Cupid's bow in the lips. And Riley was saying that when the twins were born, she was actually in the hospital room, like with Lisa when she was giving birth, and she had to have a C-section. And she said, like, as soon as they came out and stuff, she said, you know, Lisa was like, what about the lips? And she's like, I went over and I looked, and she said, I was like, you have the Cupid's bow? You have it too. And she's like, they have the lips. And she's like, we all have it.
That's so hilarious.
I think that's so cool. But she does. And sometimes when I watch, like I was watching Riley talk on an interview the other day, and it was funny because even like her lip curls up sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when she's talking.
It's
like I always say,
uncanny.
those Presley genes are strong.
Yes, they are. Because
Those Presley genes are strong.
We've talked about it, and I'm anxious to see her when she grows up. That one twin looks just like Gladys. So.
Oh yeah, Teresa. See, she just said, I love how Riley tells the story that they looked for the lips in the twins when they were born.
It was so cute.
That's such. I mean, that's just such a cute story.
It is.
Like
cute.
what a great like memory and moment.
Yeah.
And what a great like tie back to Elvis and, you know, throwback to him.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the stars, Colleen. Much appreciated.
That's so sweet. Yeah. So overall, I wish Heather and I could go to every stop.
Yeah.
But these were the two closest to us. We can't make any more of them. We're just going to have to like search for them on YouTube. But we've loved them. They were great. I'm so glad that Riley decided to do this. I don't know it's necessarily something she wanted to do. And it's got to be hard on her. She's got to be.
You know, though, I was thinking about that too tonight. I feel like that this is something she had to do. But I think once she gets through this, I think she's going to look back on this as a cathartic, healing thing.
Yes.
I think this book and this book tour and these interviews, as hard as they are, I think is going to be part of her grief process and her journey and her healing. Yeah. And this is really going to help her come out on the other side.
Yeah, I do too. So I'm really glad that she's doing it. And like I say, you know, it's just another kudos, not only for Lisa, but for Elvis as well, because how many people is this going to bring into Elvis's orbit and his world? You know, I'm sure, like I said, there was a lot of young people there that maybe love Raleigh or maybe loved Lisa, that are now going to love Elvis and learn about him and all the interesting things. Because, I mean, it does not get any more interesting than Elvis and his life. So,
yeah. And, you know, like when Joel came out in the Memphis one, he was like, you know, Riley's like a, you know, award-winning producer, director, actress. And he was like, and now thanks to the Elvis fans, she's going to probably be able to add a New York Times bestseller to her list. And I sure hope she does. I sure hope that this book does phenomenally for her. And
well, as many Elvis fans as are on the world, I've not met one that was like, I'm not going to get that book. I'm not going to read it. Like, that's just not happening. So,
but so much to discuss coming up.
I know. Okay, so let's talk about it. And somebody was asking, how do I join the book club? We're just calling it a book club. It's not really. What it'll really be is like we do now. Heather and I usually come on Sundays. Usually, that's our usual time. I don't know. We may make it a special day. We may come on another day. But we'll try to always let you know that that's what we're going to be talking about. We always try to say, oh, we're going to talk about this today. We're just going to take it. You know, I don't know. We may take it chapter by chapter. We may take it topic by topic. That also could be.
Yeah.
An interesting way to go about it.
It's probably going to be a multi-parter because I don't know if you all have noticed or not, but especially me, Holly and I can talk and we're very long-winded, and especially me, and I'm very detailed. So this is probably going to be like, we're probably going to be here and I'm going to be like, okay, this is part 9
which is
of the book.
Well, because I'm seeing a lot of people
to talk about.
There's a lot of people on here also saying, you know, I have no one to talk about this with. Because, you know, sometimes you're the only Elvis fan in your family and your other family. Because like our dad, he could care less about any of this. He doesn't want to know about it. He doesn't want us to talk about it.
All Dad wants to know is when I've talked about the Lisa book, he's like, have you read it? And I'm like, not yet. And then he's like, I'm sure when we do read it, he's going to be like, was it good?
That's it. That's all I care. Is that good, bad, not?
Yeah.
So it'll be like a little, time for us all to get together and talk. And like I say, we're going to talk about topics. Maybe we'll post and say like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. What do you want us to talk about? Or what are you dying to know? Or what are your thoughts on this? And then we can kind of go back and forth and check out everybody's thoughts and comments and stuff on that. But it'll be a few weeks away.
Yeah.
Because we want to give everybody time to read, to listen, to process, to reread.
Because I know I saw a lot of you being like, I've read it once, I'm reading it at least another time.
And then two, Heather and I are taking a little hiatus. We've had a busy summer. It's crazy, with our dad, craziness. It's crazy town all the time. We're taking a little hiatus. We've got some stuff to do. We're going to relax a little bit. So we are not going to be on the next couple of Sundays. Yeah. We'll still be posting. We'll still have pictures. Heather will probably post these videos of tonight's show. We did it in like little clips, so we'll try to do that over the next few days, just so And
stay tuned for that. I know a lot of you were asking the other night if we videoed the Nashville or if we videoed the Memphis book tour and stuff, and I did not. And I'll tell you why. Well, number one, I didn't know if we could.
Right.
I thought that they were going to be like, no videoing, pictures only, and I kind of wanted to be like respectful of that. Right. Plus, I was like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to like immerse myself and enjoy it. But I did see that they let people video it and a lot of people posted. So I told Holly, I was like, well, tonight at the Nashville one, I'm going to video it because I know there's a lot of you out there that want to like see it and hear it and stuff. So so that will be coming up. So that's why we didn't do the Memphis one, but we did do the Nashville one.
We'll probably, and like I said, we videoed it in parts. So we'll just throw up a little part here and there over the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah. But, read your book, listen to it, and then we're going to all come back and discuss.
Yeah. And I did also want to say, because I saw a lot of comments about this as well, so just to address those, we are, like Holly said, going to be taking a little vacay/staycay over the next couple of weeks with Dad in tow. So pray for us.
I know.
Pray for me, mainly, that I make it. And no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we're going to be doing that. So some of you were asking about the bracelets and about the candles and are they still available and can we still get them? Holly put a halt on those.
Well, I put a pre-order.
Yeah.
So you can go to the website, hollynorman.com. If you still want to get a bracelet, a t-shirt, a candle, you absolutely can. They just won't be shipped out right away. Yeah. I think I put on there November 1st. So you can absolutely go and order to your heart's content. Just don't be expecting it to ship until the end of October, November 1st.
Yeah.
Because we're a little busy right now.
Yeah. So those
and they're all handmade and they take time. So bear with me. But it was so cute. All the besties had their bracelet on tonight. It was really cute.
Yeah. There were so many people. Yeah. We met in Memphis and tonight in Nashville. They're all like, I put my bracelet on.
Yeah. So if you want a bracelet, a candle, a t-shirt, whatever, it's all at hollynorman.com. You can just pre-order it now if you want to, and I'll mail it out. And I always like to.
Great holiday gifts.
They do make holiday, and they'll be here before the holidays. Yeah, I'll get them out like in early November. So.
But those will be available for a while.
Yeah.
So I know the t-shirts, our t-shirts that we designed for this year's Elvis Week will only be available to the end of the year.
Right.
But the bracelets and candles, they'll be available for a little bit longer. So never fear. You can still get yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I may keep them forever because everybody's, really loving them. They're loving their scent. Their essence of Elvis. So you guys have a great next couple of weeks.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got so many people on here. It's crazy.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to us and indulging us with all of our because I know sometimes we can get a lot. So
we are a lot. It's H squared. What'd you expect? But thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for the likes, the comments, the shares. Go on over to our YouTube channel.
We'll post videos there.
Instagram.
Join our Instagram.
It's Everything Elvis Entertainment on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to get us on Facebook, it's Holly Norman. So just check us out.
Yeah. There's so many exciting things coming up.
Yes.
So take a little breather over the next couple of weeks along with Holly and I. But, maybe by the time we come back as well in a couple of weeks, the birthday stuff will be announced.
Yes. So
maybe that'll be
got a lot, y'all. There's the holidays. There's the holiday lighting. There's birthday. We've got this book now. So we're going to be busy.
A lot. That's why we got to take a little breather.
So, yes. All right. Well, you all have a great night, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.